Native Americans in North America have gone through some experiences in which um, we really changed our way of everything, yeah, our way of thinking, our our philosophy, yeah, and it's it's different, yeah. It has really, really changed. Um, but that's how it is, yeah. That's that's what happened, and most people in the world don't know about that. You know, they don't know about this change that Native peoples in North America have gone through. Even Indians themselves are unaware of it because that's how covert it was. But the result is that we are not thinking like our ancestors anymore. Yeah, it's like this. Uh, in the modern world, most people believe in, they see life in only two ways: this and that, and then they polarize them. They call one, maybe they say this is good, yeah, because they like it, so they call this good, and the stuff they don't like, they call that, and that is bad. And everything is just seen in two categories: this and that. And this is against that, or that is against this. Yeah? So they label everything as good and bad. Everything. Yeah? Which means they only focus on one thing. So, for example, in emotions, look at in Lakota, we have four basic emotions, and other emotions are combinations of these four basic ones. But the four basic ones are happiness, sadness, fear, and anger. And when people only see this and that, they only choose one of these emotions, and most times it's happiness. Yeah, they focus only on happiness, and they call that good. And the other three they say are bad. Those are weakness. Yeah, so they say weakness is bad, and happiness is a strength. So happiness is, and then they take it further by saying, okay, positive is good and negative is bad. So they're focusing on positivity, happiness, yeah, strength, and everything else is bad. Weaknesses are bad, anger, sadness, and fear are bad. Negative is bad. See, that's what happens in this kind of thinking. It's everything is separated into two categories, and they make them opposite. Yeah, by labeling the one they like as good and the one they don't like as bad. This is called duality. The modern world is like this. Yeah, and that can include religions and philosophies and political ideologies, things like that. That is not going to work in the long run. It only causes problems, but it works in such a way that there will always be problems. That's how duality remains in power. And this is how Indians are today. Indians will look at even our own stories, and they will say, yeah, and this character is a bad guy because he's negative, and yeah, see? But really, the ancient version of those stories are not like that at all. Okay? So let's look at this negative and positive. Yeah? The universe is founded upon many things, not just negative and positive. There's also neutrality. See, there's a third perspective. This is this is in quantum physics. Yeah, that there is also neutrality, and sometimes there are positive things that function in a negative way. And sometimes there are negative things that function in a positive way. Now remember, the universe does not label positive as good and negative as bad. No, no. If you take one out, the universe implodes. Okay? They both have to be there because they both serve a purpose. Neither one is the good one or the bad one. So positive does not mean good and negative does not mean bad according to the universe. Okay? And like I said, sometimes there are negative things that act in a positive way, and there are positive things that act in a negative way. Now, remember, when I say that, you have to keep in mind that positive does not mean good, and negative does not mean bad. They're just two different ways of doing things. And then there's neutrality. And then there's something that is the total opposite of all of that cannot be seen. And all together, they form the universe. So if you say negative is bad and try to destroy all negativity by focusing only on positive, you destroy the universe and you destroy yourself. That's the ancient way of looking at life. So that means in the ancient way, it's not just this and that. It's this, that, and the other. And many times there are several others. But it's never just this and that. It's never just two things. It's always going to be at least three things. That's the ancient way. So this is why our ancestors did not believe in good versus evil. Because it doesn't exist. That's something that man creates. Yeah, by only looking at life as having two components. That's closed-mindedness, and that's what duality does. It makes you closed-minded. You judge people. Anybody who disagrees with your way of beliefs, you say, oh, they're sinners. Oh, they don't believe in my God, so they're going to hell after they die. They're going to be in eternal pain, eternal suffering, whereas I'm going to be in eternal happiness. See, that's always focusing on one thing, and when you do that, you become addictive. You have addictive thought patterns because you're only focusing on one emotion, one component of life, and everything else you block out. And so you become judgmental of anybody who disagrees with you, and then you say, I will prove to you that you are wrong. And if you still don't join me, then I must destroy you because you're an enemy to my God. All Christian religions are this way. And offshoots of Christian religions like Islam and so forth. Yeah? So that kind of belief system always is oppressing somebody, whether it's women or other religions. It's always oppressing somebody because it needs an enemy. It needs a victim because it is an oppressor. When you only focus on one thing, yeah, and you say, my beliefs are correct, my culture is correct, I know what's right for you because I'm smarter than you, and my way is the only way. This is creating things like ethnocentrism, when you judge other cultures by your culture standards. It creates paternalism, when you think you know what's right for everybody. And it creates dogma, when you say your way is the only way. And all of that creates racism. And we all know what that is. Yeah, those are the four byproducts of this dualistic way of thinking. Yeah, but in the ancient Lakota way, it's not dualistic. Yeah, an ancient Lakota way take duality and transform it into something else by either adding something to it or taking something away from it, just transforming it into something else. Or if the duality is so dangerous, it's left alone. Because when the duality is really, really strong, it's going to end up oppressing itself. When people recognize that oh, that's that's really rugged, let's stay away from that, yeah, because it's so strong, it's destroying everything in its path. Eventually it's going to turn on itself. It's going to oppress itself. That's when it gets really, really dangerous. Yeah. So that's why sometimes you have to look at a situation, and if it is dualistic, you have to really examine it closely and see, can you learn from it? Can you transform it into something that works, or do you just let it go? Yeah, because maybe you've experienced something like that before, and you know there's no solution, so then you just let it go. See, this is the way you have to think about it. It's not just two ways. When you fight duality with duality, you lose because you become dualistic. That's also why when you answer racism with racism, which a lot of Indians do, yeah, they answer racism with their own racism. Everybody loses. Nobody wins. Yeah, because you answering duality with duality does not work. That's like trying to cure the common cold with the HIV virus. It just does not make sense. Yeah? So this is very important to understand. And when you understand that concept of duality, then you will have a deeper appreciation and comprehension of Iktomi and the Iktomi stories. And then you will see that Iktomi is a great teacher because he's showing you how not to be. Yeah? See, when we learn things in life, we learn how to do things. Yeah, we learn how to live healthy. But it's also important to know how to not do things. That's just as important. Look at the universe in your mind. You see all the planets, the stars, yeah, all the different things out there. But what else is there? What is holding all the planets and stars and comets and asteroids and meteors and everything out there? What's holding all of this? So you have to look at the total picture. You can't just look at the things that you can see. You also have to consider that which you cannot see. That's how you look at life. And that's what creates hope. It's a very powerful tool in living. Yeah. So remember, for those of you who listened to this show for several years, you know that I went through a really bad experience in July of 2014, and I told you back then that I'm processing the emotions that I'm feeling at the time, so I can let them go. I'm trying to learn from that experience as much as I can, and make the best of that experience as much as I can. And I was hoping as well and visualizing a future as if I already had it. I would do that several minutes a day and then come back to the present moment, because when you do that, you are putting a process in your mind from the future that's going to help you in this present moment. And as you're coming to peace with the difficulty, you are also giving yourself a healthy emotional foundation because you're working through the emotions by trying to make the best of the experience and learn from it as much as possible. And that's how you deal with all your difficulties, even the ones that are from the past. You can still learn from them. But you come back to the present moment with that knowledge to help you in the present time. This way of thinking is called nonlinear. Yeah, and this is also what when you use hope in this process, things will happen. And those of you who have followed the show for 2 years, you know those wonderful things because I talked about them or it, I should say. And something really wonderful did happen. It does work. This process does work. And it's still in process. Yeah, it's still something is still going to happen, and I have a big hope. Yeah, that it has a really good resolution. So it's coming to a finality. Yeah, finally, this. I mean, the experience. I'm at peace with it, but there's still a couple of things that are like left over from that experience that happened to me in 2014. There's still a couple of things left over that I'm dealing with, and it's going to be eliminated very soon. Not destroyed, just I'm not gonna be involved with certain things anymore, certain people, and then I'm totally gone from that experience now. Yeah, it's totally out of my life. And the next chapter begins. Yeah, it's already begun. So I'm happy about that. Yeah, but see, it works. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, having hope really works. No matter how shitty your situation is, take a few minutes each day just to forget it. Yeah, just forget it for a few minutes, and then just do this visualization, like what I did, like what I just described to you. Then you've taken a little break, yeah, and that process kind of cleanse your mind, and so you can come back after forgetting about it for a few minutes and visualizing, come back to the present moment again, and you'll feel better, and you will feel more, you know, revitalized or more energy to face whatever it is you're going through, and you will get through it. You can take a few minutes every day just to let it go, just for a few minutes. You're not going to go in denial. As long as you come back, you're not going to go in denial. You're just taking a little break every day and doing visualization. That helps you get through it. It helped me get through mine. Yeah, you can do it. So, when you do this though, see, you have to. Your foundation cannot be duality. Otherwise, it won't work. Because when you're dualistic, your visualizations will be dualistic too. And that's actually an unhealthy communication. In the Lakota way, we have this wawokia, this natural law of generosity, which says that the way you communicate returns to you 4 times as strong. So if it's unhealthy, it's going to come back to you 4 times as unhealthy. And when you believe in good versus evil and do these visualizations, you're actually messing yourself up. You're making the situation worse. Okay? So it's important to not have this dualistic concept of good versus responsibility. Yeah? by what I said. This living in a way where there is no good versus evil, but you see things as having at least three components, three perspectives, this, that, and the other. Learn from your difficulties as much as you can. Yeah, communicate in a healthy way, visualize in a healthy way, come to peace with the past difficulties, and this helps you with the power of hope. And something will happen in your favor. That's the way it works. But you cannot believe in good versus evil. If you do believe in good versus evil, this will work just a little tiny bit, and it might look like you're achieving success, but actually it's you're fooling yourself, and it will fail. In the end, it will fail because that's what duality does. There is no success in duality. Yeah, it might look like it in the beginning, but in the end, you will destroy yourself. Yeah, you have to acknowledge that. Um, that there is nothing that's evil. That it's just difficulty is not a bad thing. That you have to you know just try to make the best of your situation and learn from it as much as possible. No matter what it is, you can always find a peace. No matter what the difficulty it is, no matter what the difficulty is, you will always have the possibility to find peace. This is taking responsibility for yourself instead of giving all your thoughts and whatever to some invisible deity that you don't know if that person exists or not. But you say, "Oh, I just give it to my God, and then He'll take it away." That's denial because you're not facing it. When you don't face your difficulties and you try to ignore them or use a fancy excuse by saying, "I'm giving it to my God, He's going to burn it away." When you think like that, that's being irresponsible. And you're only making your life more difficult than it really needs to be. And your next experience is going to be a difficult one again. You will never be at peace. And in romance, you will never find love because there is no good versus evil in love. Being emotionally healthy is the foundation for love. Yeah. So that's how it goes. Yeah. That's the natural laws. And it works. I used it myself. I use it myself when I go through difficulties. And it when you do this, it helps you also to really, really enjoy your blessings more than you ever could than before. Everything is better. Even eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich tastes better. Kissing your girlfriend, oh, it's even better. Wow. Taking her sweet little hand and holding it and looking her in the eyes and saying, "Oh, chérie, mon amour, je t'aime, je t'aime, je t'aime." Oh, hey, even that's better. Shoot. Okay, I'm getting carried away here. I better stop before I get too excited and blow up. Shoot. But I think you know what I mean, yeah? Oh my. Anyway, coming I want to explain to you why today's Lakota people do not believe what I just said, and that today most Indian people are dualistic. Yeah? Most Indian people are believing in good versus evil. Back in the late 1800s, when we were placed on reservations, they were prison camps in the beginning. And this is a situation where we couldn't leave, we were not allowed to hunt. Our knives and guns were taken from us, and we were only allowed to eat whatever the American government gave to us, which was really no good food. The quality of the food was okay when it left places like Chicago and stuff like that, but once it got to some of these train stations between there and the reservation, a lot of these handlers would sell it, and then they would buy old food and put that in there instead, and these middlemen would make a lot of money. Yeah. So what we got on a reservation was bullshit food. Yeah, it was really no good. And we ended up getting all kinds of diseases like heart diseases, hypertension, diabetes, things like that. And then at the same time, our language and ceremonies were declared illegal by the United States. So we were hit physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Soon after that, our minds became weak. And these, as I said earlier, these are the four parts of the self. So with the four parts of the self being sick, we lost our connection to our sacred center. So we started to focus on communicating away from that. And then the priests came from the various churches, and they learned our ways and said that since our ways conflict with the Bible, that our ways are evil, that they come from Satan. They come from the devil. So in our weakened states, we slowly began to accept that. Now, another thing is that there were some Lakota people that didn't want to accept that. They wanted to hang on to the traditional Lakota star knowledge ways. And if they revolted, they were sent to a mental hospital in Canton, South Dakota, which was set up for all reluctant Indians in America that did not want to become Christianized. They were sent there. And these church priests also committed the medicine men, medicine women, holy men, holy women. They committed all of them to these mental asylums too. This way, the people would not go to them for help, that they would come to the churches. They wanted the Indian people to only go to the priests and not their traditional healers. So they sent the healers to this mental asylum to die. And if you are radical, you were sent there to die too. Yeah. So while this is happening, the priests are saying to the Indian people, if you believe our way, we will help your children. And so, there was a very, very dire straits time. And so a lot of Indians became Christians because of that. Like I said, we were weak-minded too at that point. And those who stuck it out, there were people who refused to accept Christianity, but they went to church anyway. What they were doing was they were putting up a candy store front. On the outside, they were acting like good little Christian Indians, but on the inside they weren't. They were star knowledge people. Yeah? They did this because they didn't want to get sent to that mental asylum to die. That's sad, isn't it? But that's part of what happened back then. And it's because of these people who maintained this knowledge in secret. Thanks to them, they passed it down, to certain people like me, and we still have this knowledge. And I have this show, and I'm sharing it with you. because this regards the sacred center, and we all have that. Yeah, this is not a Lakota thing. This is a Ikje Oyate thing. Ikje Oyate means human being. When you live this way, as I said in the beginning, you communicate as a human, not as a Lakota, not as a German or a Japanese or an African. You communicate as a human. Yeah, that's really important to know. So that's how it was back then. Yeah. Now remember, I said that the priest said to the Indians, "We will help your children." So they took the children away from the parents, sent them to boarding school hundreds of miles away, where these children were tortured to speak only English and learn a civilized Christian way. If they spoke about home, they were tortured. These schools didn't do background checks in those days. Yeah, the pay was really low, so they got really no good teachers in these schools. A lot of these teachers were sadistic. They got sexual pleasure from torturing people. And here, this is like summer holiday camp for them. And the same thing for perverts. A lot of perverts now had their pick of the litter, and they could get away with it. That's what happened. A lot of these children were murdered, they were killed, they were raped, they were molested. And there's a lot of unmarked graves near these schools. Not all these children are accounted for. So, those who made it through, what they learned was whatever they saw. Because a lot of these children never went back home. They were told by the priests that their families had died and that there was nobody there. And that broke their hearts. This is why some of these children, they were so sad they couldn't eat. And they ended up starving themselves to death. And those who made it through, like I said, they didn't really survive because they were not able to process all these emotional traumas that they experienced. They didn't know how, because the only adults that were around them were these unhealthy, abusive people, teachers, dorm matrons, cooks, janitors, priests. They were all unhealthy to them. That's all they knew. They learned how to become victims, and they learned how to become abusers to those who they considered weaker than themselves. So they didn't really survive. A lot of these children that made it through these schools, they had a lot of traumas that they didn't know how to deal with, because all they saw was abuse. That's what they learned. There was no adult healthy role models to emulate. And remember, I said these children were told that their families were all dead, so they didn't go back during summer holiday. They just stayed at these schools and worked. So when they left these schools, they tried to live in mainstream America. Nobody accepted them. They would say, you're a heathen. You're a dirty Indian. So they couldn't even get jobs off the reservation. And when they went back to the reservation, to their people, they ran into more problems. Many, many times they were not even accepted by their own people, because their own people were saying, you're too white. You act like a white man. So they're caught in between. So a lot of them turned to alcohol to try to hide all of it, to try to forget everything. They turned to alcohol, and then later drugs. There were some who tried to make it. They married each other because they knew each other went through the same thing. And they didn't want their children to go through what they went through. So they didn't teach them the language. They didn't teach them the culture. Those children, the children of these first generation boarding school people, those children are today's elders. When they were born, they didn't learn the language. They didn't learn Lakota Star knowledge. They never got the opportunity to. When you look at an old person on the reservation today, they're not the connection to the ancient past. No, they were born in a Christian background at a time when the reservations were strongly Christian. So this is what happened. That's a native experience that a lot of people don't realize. This is what happened all over America and Canada too. So the next generation, they are sent to boarding school too. No choice. It's a little bit better, but they're still abused. They're still getting treated really no good. And so they grow up, have children, and they don't teach their children anything. What can they teach them? They don't know anything concerning their own language. This is why today most people cannot speak their own language, and what little cultural information they know is Christianized, meaning it's dualistic, and it's not the original ancient form. Okay, so the first generation of Indian kids that were sent to boarding school, since all around them were unhealthy adults who did nothing but abuse them, they didn't receive healthy parenting. They missed things that they should have learned about life. So they're lacking emotional development. So when they grow up, and those who make it through these boarding schools, and then they have children, those children are also lacking that emotional support, that emotional development, because the parents don't know how to do it. Yeah, all they knew and all they learned was abuse. All they experienced in these schools was abuse. So they have a hard time trying to be a healthy parent. So they do the best that they can. But the children still are not receiving the proper emotional development, the experiences that healthy children should receive from healthy parents. They're still missing that. And so when that second generation grows up, they know even less concerning healthy parenting. And so their children receive even less. And every time this happens, the next generation becomes more dualistic than the previous one. So let me try to say that again. The first generation boarding school kids, they didn't receive proper parenting skills. So when they have children, their children are not receiving healthy training that they should be receiving. They're receiving even less than their parents. Now that second generation, when they grow up, see, they know even less. So when they have children, those children are receiving even less, and it gets worse with each generation, which also means that the less healthy emotional development they receive, the more dualistic they become. So with each generation is more becoming emotionally underdeveloped they're also becoming more dualistic. So today, it's a huge mess on the reservation. We're incredibly, as a whole, we're incredibly underdeveloped emotionally, and we are incredibly dualistic. We're quick to attack each other. We're quick to pull each other down. We're just like the rest of the civilized, dualistic world. Notice I didn't say white man, because this is all over the world. It's not just among white countries. It's all over the world. Wherever there is a dualistic ideology, where one gender is considered less than and property of the other gender, you're going to have incredibly underdeveloped emotional people, which equals incredibly dualistic people. And that is unhealthy. So that started by the time of the late 1800s on the reservation. Sometimes we do things where we think it's a good idea, and it, it's not a good idea, but we think it is. Yeah, and then you know the result is sometimes it's quite catastrophic. Yeah, but the important thing is, see what a lot of people do when they, live through an experience like this. The tendency is to say, okay, we're not going to do that, and then they let it go. That's temporarily okay, but in the long run, it's not okay. What this experience is trying to do is teach you. When you see it like that, then you don't see it as a mistake. Yeah, when you see it as a teaching experience, okay, I'm going to, learn this, and and that way you gain wisdom, yeah, and knowledge, and you come to peace with the situation, and those are blessings. So if you had just said, well, that's over and hell with it, and don't want anything to do with that anymore, and you didn't learn anything, then this is going to lead you to saying something like, well, I'm only going to focus on the positive. And that is only a temporary solution. It's not entirely a healthy thing. Yeah? When you say, I'm just going to focus on the positive, that's not really a healthy thing. It'll work for a short time. You will run into difficulties again, more than necessary. Okay, and this is missing the boat. Yeah, you're denying yourself blessings when you say something like, "Well, I'm just going to focus on the positive," then you're missing blessings, and then you most likely you're going to make that mistake again. You will make the same mistake over and over and over. And since you're not learning from it, then it is a mistake. It is a failure. It will always be that way until you either die or you learn from it. Yeah, it's really important to look at the bigger picture, to try to see the bigger picture. That bigger picture is looking at the experience that did not turn out good, but to look at it so that you say, okay, what can I learn from this? That's the challenge. To ask yourself, what can I learn from this? whether it's a disease, a failed relationship, uh, getting fired from a job, or just losing your job because the company is cutting back. That's happening all the time, yeah? Some bank is going to close up a bunch of branches because they're having problems. So next thing you know, 20,000 workers are going to be, losing their jobs. Things like that. Or somebody gets diagnosed with cancer that they didn't do any, they were living a healthy life, and they're nice people, you know, and all of a sudden they get diagnosed with some kind of terminal cancer. And you know, when you see life as blessing, and blessing from learning from difficulty, it's easier to deal with. But when you see the world as good versus evil, then it's really hard to deal with that diagnosis, to deal with that kind of difficulty. So what this means is that the dualistic idea of good versus evil makes life more difficult than it really is. It only makes more confusion. It only brings more chaos. It does not bring peace. And it limits your vision, because when you believe in good versus evil, your tendency is to say, I'm only going to focus on the positive. And that, all of that, is limiting your spiritual vision. And you're not developing emotionally. And when you do not develop emotionally, you cannot develop spiritually, no matter how many ceremonies you go to. That's the way it works. The heart and the mind, the body, the soul, they're all connected. So we have to do our best in taking care of those parts. And the part that seems to be the most difficult part is the emotional part, because in this modern day world, it's a dualistic world, and it does not want you to become emotionally developed. This way it can control you, and it can tell you what to see. So you're not really seeing the true reality, you're seeing duality, but not reality. Yeah? So when you believe in something that's more along the lines like, okay, life is about blessing, and blessing through difficulty. When you believe it like that, then you understand that difficulty is not such a bad thing. That it just means it's times will be hard. They'll be trying, and emotions come with that. And it's important to release those emotions in a constructive way. For those of you that don't know what that means, go do something that don't hurt anybody but help somebody. Like, go cut wood for somebody who needs it. Haul water for somebody who needs it. Go whatever your talent is, yeah, use it to help somebody. And just really put everything in it, or take a walk through the nature, take a run, take a swim, go hit a punching bag, lift some weights or whatever you can do to get that energy out, those emotions out. You might have to cry, you might have to shout, It's okay to be scared. All that has to come out, but in a constructive way. And then you bring your mind in. Yeah, this is what most people don't do. They don't bring their mind in. That's why they never come to peace with it. So just using your heart is not good enough. Just using your emotions is not good enough. Some people will say, well, as long as it's in your heart, then everything is okay. No, that's not true. You've got to use your heart and your mind together. We have them, so let's use them. See what I mean? So when we bring in our mind, this is when we start thinking, okay, now what can I do with this? What can I learn from this? And as you do this process, you will come to peace with it much quicker than if you believe in good versus evil. When you believe in good versus evil, it may take you forever. You may not ever come to peace with it. So you have to drop that. If you want to come to peace with it, that's your choice. Yeah? It's your choice. So when you believe in blessing and blessing through difficulty, then you realize that positive is not good and negative is not bad. Yeah? That they're just two different schools of learning. So where we make the mistake is when we label things as good and bad. That's where we make the mistake. So focusing only on the positive is missing the complete picture of reality. If you only focus on the positive, you're missing the blessings that come from difficulty. They're still blessings. And some of those blessings are going to be the greatest blessings that will ever come into your life. And you will miss it if you only focus on the positive. So you don't just focus on the positive, you focus on everything. Because life is not just negative and positive. There's also neutrality. And then there's other things too. Think about how the earth goes around the sun. This is really teaching us something too. When it's daytime, when it becomes nighttime, does that happen? Just like that? Just click and it's suddenly nighttime? No. See, if you believe in good versus evil, this is like saying that daytime becomes nighttime, just like click, and that's it. No evening, no morning, no dusk, no dawn. Just here's the sun, then night. Here's the sun, night. And that doesn't happen like that. Nature is not that way. Nature does not subscribe to good versus evil. Concerning focusing only on the positive. I hear so many native people saying this today, that they're always saying, focus on the positive and then all your problems will go away. No, they won't. They won't. They won't. They're going to get bigger because you're denying part of the picture of reality. And you're doing that because you believe in good versus evil. And this is a dualistic way of thinking. This is not traditional whatsoever. Yeah? In the ancient way, you look at all of life. You don't label it. You don't label it as good and bad. No. You look at it. You look at it, and then you say, okay, it's, sometimes you get an experience that makes you feel good. So enjoy it. That's a good time. That's a blessing. Have fun with it. Yeah? Whatever it is. And then sometimes it's a difficulty. And then in our ancestral way we say, okay, this is something that we need to work with here. See, it's like a project. Yeah? And we need to work with it. Whatever it is. Could be anything. Like I said, it could be a disease. It could, maybe somebody lost their legs in an accident or something. Yeah, maybe they broke their 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 lip muscles and they can't smile anymore. Hey. Maybe their belly button shifted to the left or something. So how tragic, yeah. Rugged guy. Maybe he can't see his belly button anymore, so you gotta think about, maybe he should exercise, yeah. Whatever difficulty it is, it could be tragic, it could be humorous, it could be whatever, you know? Difficulties all follow the same procedure, and that is you learn from it, make the best of it, like I said earlier. So you're looking at everything, yeah? And this is what leads to the statement of blessing and blessing through difficulty. Blessing by itself are just, the good things that happen to you for whatever reason. Sometimes it's because of what you did. Sometimes it's just out of the blue. Yeah, just out of the blue. That it happens either it doesn't matter how it happens. Enjoy it. But difficulty is the same way. Sometimes it's because of something we did and sometimes it just happens. It doesn't matter how it happened. What matters is what are we going to do with it? And if you say, "Oh, just focus on the positive," then people just let the difficulties go. They deny it, they ignore it, and they call it a mistake and a failure, and they totally missed the blessings that are going to come through that could have come through that. So focusing only on the positive means you're denying yourself blessings, you're denying yourself wisdom, knowledge, and peace, because those things come when you learn from the difficulty, when you make the most out of it. So those people who do that, the people who learn from difficulty, the people who receive peace, knowledge, and wisdom through difficulty because they made the best out of it and learned as much as they could from it, those people do not say focus on the positive. They don't say that. Because focusing on the positive is a dualistic thing. And like I was saying earlier, just look at nature, look at the universe, the way the earth goes around the sun. Yeah? It's not just daytime and then suddenly nighttime. No, there's in between times. You see? There's in between times. This is this is showing you it's not just positive and negative. There's other things too. But when you look at the world as just positive and negative, then you're dualistic. Then you are going to miss blessings. You're denying yourself peace. You're denying yourself wisdom and knowledge. Yeah? And you're saying the daytime is good and everything else is bad. That's what you're saying. So focusing on the positive is not going to work in the long run. It's absolutely not going to work. Yeah, it's just a band-aid, but it's not going to cure the problem. Yeah, you have to get to the root of it. And the only way to do that is to stop categorizing everything as good versus evil. Because there's more to life than just two aspects. There's always going to be at least three perspectives. Everything that I'm saying is based on Lakota Star knowledge. Yeah, everything that I'm saying. So all I ask is that you think about it, nothing more. I'm not asking you to agree with me or believe it or accept it or anything, but I am saying this is based on ancient principles. So when you live this way, where you learn from difficulty and enjoy blessing, when you learn from difficulty, it results in blessing. Yeah? When you live like that, you see so much of reality. You see so much beauty. that's in this world. That beauty comes through difficulty as well. As long as you work it, yeah, you learn from it, make the most out of it. And then you see, wow, this is so fantastic world. There's miracles happening all the time. Yeah. And you have a calm energy around you. Like attracts like is the next concept. That means you're going to attract somebody like you too. Yeah? That's how it works. See, we're not designed to be alone. We have voices to talk, and if we can't talk, we have other ways to communicate. Sign language, writing. Yeah? We have other ways, body language. There's all kinds of ways that we can communicate to each other. This means we're not designed to be alone. So as long as you're living in this healthy kind of way of enjoying blessing and also creating blessing by learning through difficulty, as long as you live this way, you will attract somebody healthy. And then you're going to stop saying focus on the positive. Yeah, you'll say more of, hey, this is life. Yeah, when a difficulty comes, you work it. It's like a project that needs you to complete it. Yeah, and you do that by learning from it and making the best out of that situation, whatever it is, no matter what that difficulty is. And that's how you're going to bless the people around you. That's a cool thing. Yeah, that's a really, really cool thing. So that's my message for all of you, especially those of you who believe that, those of you who believe that you should only focus on the positive. Good luck with that. You're not going to last very long. Yeah, because it's not going to satisfy everything. It will bring you difficulty because you're avoiding difficulty. So the more you avoid difficulty, the more it comes to you. You see how that works? So that's something I would like for you to think about. Yeah, I'm not trying to force this down your throats like a religion or something, but what I'm saying is this is based on Lakota star knowledge principles. They're really, really ancient concepts. And they work. Yeah, and there's still a lot of us here that still believe these things. Unfortunately, most people don't, but some of us do. And we want you to think about this. This is this is coming from the ancestors. This is their message to you. So it's up to you. Yeah? It's all up to you. You can change your family tradition into something that's more healthy so that your descendants can look back at you and say, wow, thanks for, giving us a way to live. Because believing in good versus evil, what do you think that brings? If you believe in good versus evil, what do you think that brings? Well, just look at the world today. That's what it brings. See what I mean? We can change that. We can influence that to change by how we live our lives. So it doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter, ceremonies do not matter in this, sacred items do not matter in this because your life is a ceremony and you are a sacred item. Remember what I said earlier, where your physical body, your mind, and your heart and your soul connect. This is a sacred connection. Deep, deep inside you, this is your sacred center. There's a piece of the earth there. A piece of the earth soul is there. And then there's another sacred piece there. I'm not going to tell you what that is because this is a public forum, but it's a sacred thing. There is several sacred things that are there. My students know what those are. And people who've been to my seminars, they know what that is. But I'm not going to say it on this show because there's a lot of questionable people that listen to this show. Which I'm thankful for too, yeah? Because this show is trying to wake them up. To read more about Lakota Star Knowledge spirituality, you can read my book called Wichocha Otechike. You can see the book cover on the right side of this screen. This book contains the information to what I talk about on my Lakota spirituality videos. To purchase this book, please click below where it says Show More. Clicking on that link will open up the description below, and there you will see a link called To Purchase My Books. As you will see, it's an eBay link. Click on that eBay link, and there you will see the information to get this book. Lila Pila Mayelo. Thank you very much.